Well, welcome to video 5 of 8 looking at the symbolic frame. And what we're going to do during this frame is actually pause and look at a particular example, a case study, and spend a little bit of time digging into the Eagle group at Data General. So this is an older story. You should be able to find some links to it in either Google or Bing. So go and search for it. But the idea behind this is this was a small group. They were a design team, and their job was to very quickly build a new computer and to do it in record time. And part of the interesting component of this is they worked together for about a year. And as people came into the group, they were told, you know, if you're joining this group, everything else is second. Everything. Health, family, careers, everything. And when you go back and look at and the interviews and the book stories with the folks that were involved, they weren't doing it for fame or money, but they wanted to win. They had a commitment to each other, and they wanted to complete this task. And not only complete this task, but be innovative and transformational in terms of this new computer system that could do something that no one else had done before. And so you had this overarching kind of desire to be part of a winning team, but the second component of that was that they had to make some compromises along the way. Certain things, if you were going to stay on schedule, had to be quick and dirty, and you had to have a sense of ownership. It kind of gets to that last bullet on this slide, that if you can't get what you need from some manager, go to his boss. If that doesn't work, go to his boss. And again, this was a 100% accountability culture. They were there to get things done. There was no blaming someone else on why they couldn't get something done. If they needed resources, they went, they got them, they did it. And there are other cultures that have this kind of sometimes, a desire to be part of a winning organization. As you probably know, I was in the Army for 27 years, and do you know what you call an Army that comes in second? You call the members of that dead. So people don't want to lose with that, and there is a strong desire, a strong sense of organization and belonging to an organization when you're in military service. All right, let's look at the Eagle Group a little bit more and look at their performance. I talked about this or alluded to it on the previous slide, but how people became a group member was important. There was a ritual associated with that. And it was important because you were giving up health, family, fame to work on this particular project. The idea was this was a serious. This was not something done by HR. This involved group members to make sure you were getting the right members in the group. And you'll see on the next slide, and perhaps even more importantly on the following slide, diversity was important, particularly diversity of thought, and we're going to expand on that idea a little bit more. The idea that leading by example, not command, was important, and we'll talk about that. Give a couple of examples of that. We'll look at specialized language in terms of using cohesion, forming cohesion and commitment to the group. And again, you can see some of these others. We're going to split this up probably to take the second half of these in a different video. Well, let's look at these gentlemen who were involved with this particular project. So there they are. Part of the initiation, if you will, of becoming a member was a ritual. You had to volunteer, and then you had to be accepted by the existing group members into their culture. And it was, a very serious commitment. The second piece is once you became a group member, and it's, their criteria for looking at becoming a group member, they were looking for different roles and different ways for people to think about a particular project. And if you go and look at the book or read through, the abstract of it in our course textbook, you'll see that you had a debugger and an engineer and a craftsman and a story writer and an architect and a creative genius and a mechanic, a maverick, and a prince of darkness. This is how they described themselves. And as you look at those different definitions, is there going to be tension? Of course there is. The engineer and the craftsman and the creative genius and the maverick are all going to look at this at very, very different perspectives. The mechanic and the architect are going to be looking at it in a different way. And the overarching boss was described as the Prince of Darkness. So, again, the diversity became a competitive advantage because you had different approaches being applied to project, and that allowed them to move with greater agility than you could see in other projects. All right? This idea of leading by example and not command was a important characteristic of this. Look at the description in the first bullet of the group leader. So his job was to cause problems, and then the engineers were supposed to solve it. So he was creating, as it describes there, an almost endless stream of problems so he could inspire his staff to beat him, for them to win and for him not to win. He had this characteristic to find drama and romance in everything they were doing. So again, a very different kind of leadership style, but a leadership style that brought everybody on board to a common goal. And I think if you look, the picture over to the right captures that a little bit. Jennifer Lawrence in this particular role was the Mockingbird series. Was not one for script. She was not one to play a role that someone else gave her. Instead, she was one to lead by example. Not command, but lead by example. To be the symbolic leader of the revolution. She wasn't the president of District 13. She was the symbolic leadership of that rebellion. And both sides attempted to manipulate her in her role as a symbolic leader. But again, as you watch those movies, and hopefully you have, you'll see her as that leading by example, not leading from an authority position vested in the organization. Here's some of the specialized language that came out of the Eagle group. So we're circling back around. We just talked about the Prince of Darkness and diversity, and talked about the ritual of signing up. But again, these kind of use of terms to mean something that typically you don't see someone walking down the street going, "Hey Jeff, core dump me," and then someone understanding what that means, or someone talking about a one stack deep mine. Typically you don't do that. "Hey Jeff, you're looking great. I really appreciate your one stack deep mine." That would cause people to pause. But within this group, they had worked together for so long and worked so intently. I mean, there was no idea of Monday to Friday. This is very much a 7 days a week commitment. But they built this kind of shared lingo around the group and shared sense of humor and play, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. All right, well, very good. We've talked about the Eagle group. We've kind of explored some of the lessons learned within this particular group. We're going to go and look at stories that carry history and values and humor and play and ritual, but I'm probably going to shift out of the Eagle group and talk about some other things and other groups where we can bring that to bear. But at the end, we want to get to the soul of the secret of success and what that means. So thanks for joining me on the fifth of 8 videos looking at the symbolic frame, and we'll pick up right here in the next video continuing to explore stories, humor, ritual, and ceremony.